Howdy.
Oh,
Howdy.
right. Sorry about that. Hopefully, we get one person at a time. We'll know who's joining and who's the pain in the ass that we can kick out. So, I think Marco's okay, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi,
Hey,
Marco.
Marco.
Sorry about that. Right, right. Sorry. Back to so GDK issue the Bash RC is supposed to be updated, but silently failing. If you're able to share your screen again, that would be great. Thank you.
It's up, right?
It is indeed.
So yeah, so basically I think the issue is with this bit here. So I think this is the modified bit. So if we want to see what the old code was, I'll just go to my draft MR. Yeah, so earlier we just had this bit here where during the install we triggered this function ASDF add initializer for the bash RC and ZSH RC. And this went here where we checked if this file exists, and then we had another condition which appended this to the file. Now, yeah, so the issue was basically of silent failure, right? If the file doesn't exist, no one finds out, and I think the GDK command fails later on. So
But it was okay. Yeah, so it's that because ASDF isn't registered, if that's the right term. Okay. Yeah.
So I think it was Marco who had suggested we give the user 3 options regarding what to do if the shell file is not found. And I think it's somewhere here. Yeah. Add a final installation step to ask users what they want to do with the ASDF installation. Create and edit if the file is not found. Edit the file if it exists, or do nothing, right? So I was thinking we could drop this option, edit the file if it exists. In a sense, we already do that, right? If it exists, we already do that. So the user can just choose to either do nothing or create the file if the file is not found, right? So that's the first thing that I had. And I also wanted to ask if you guys think adding another GDK command is that overkill for this. I'm not sure. Like,
the reason why I propose to add a GDK command to fix this is because if you don't know it, for example, I had the issue that I did a GDK installation. I totally forgot to check if the file was edited. And so I wasn't able to use GDK. I had to go look for how to set it up to be working again. And that's if we think about more experienced developer, it's fairly easy to find. If we're talking about more new developers that maybe are new to GDK and how it works and all that stuff, maybe it could be good to have that option as well.
So could you just remind me, with if ASDF isn't registered, will the GDK command work or not?
No, that's the other part, because if
So you can't really have a GDK command to fix GDK.
not really, because on the documentation you find how to enable GDK on a shell session, but you don't find, at least I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure you don't find it, the instruction on how to make it permanent.
Gotcha. Okay. So it might only help in a few scenarios, but I think I saw you suggest maybe that we could use GDK Doctor. Have you said that on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've already got to that point, you've kind of figured out how to initialize or run or load ASDF, whatever the term is that you've used. But it could check some default locations of shell profile files and sort of suggest that it thinks that's missing. What I don't know, I remember Raymond, you're here. Do you remember there's a shell that our team have talked about? Is it called like Ghost Shell or Fish? Or like there's a few weird shells that I don't know if they use the same like Bash RC and ZSH RC and stuff like that. Or
I think
No, they
again
don't.
we look at the defaults of what we support. We support Ubuntu and macOS pretty much, or most of the sort of many of the Linux distributions and macOS. The defaults for those are ZSH and Bash RC. I think anything else is potentially beyond the scope of what we should worry about here.
So what I worry about is us saying, oh, like we couldn't find your file to update it, but we didn't know what file to look for. But I suppose that's good. So it just tells you, you may be using a weird shell, or this file hasn't been initialized, go and do it yourself. But within GDK Doctor, I guess it'd be a similar thing, right? Where we say, well, we would expect in standard Linux and Mac installations to have found this file and it to contain this entry, and we didn't find it. That doesn't mean you're not set up right, but it might be an indication. That's what I'm worried about. GDK Doctor being a bit wishy-washy.
Yeah, well, we could simply just detect the shell that we're currently running under, or that the shell that the user's configured for, and look for the appropriate file for that, and make an appropriate decision. I think I think that's reasonable. So there is
doable.
There's a shell environment variable,
right.
$shell, which returns what the user's shell is set to, not necessarily what we're currently running under. But if the user logs in and changes their shell, well, that's not generally the way to change your shell. If you want to change your shell permanently, there's other ways, and then that would update $shell. So that's one way to do it. Another potential way to do it is to there's a PS command that should work across distros that will tell you what the current application is running, and let's just do this. Don't autocorrect Zoom.
The issue is not only the file, but even with the syntax on how to load the configuration file, maybe. Because I remember some ways to call and load other source files, shell files can be different from shell to shell.
Yeah, I think generally
some use period, some use source.
Yeah, but I think generally the two that we should probably cater for are Bash and ZSH. I think anything else would be nice, but maybe those could be additional iterations if somebody is using TCSH or
so we use something
Fish or
like,
whatever. Then they can go and add it in as a later.
Yeah, so we use something like $shell to determine what the shell is. And if it's one of the two, then we know which file we should be writing to. And if that file doesn't exist, we maybe create it because we know that they're using that shell.
Yeah.
But then if it's anything else, then we just tell them, we say, you're not using one of these shells. You know, go and Google how to add ASDF to the.
Or just
Well, that's
just
what I'm curious about.
pop a
What
banner.
Go on.
did you say you installed this on macOS and it said the file didn't exist?
Yes.
Because why would a macOS install not have that file? Isn't it
I don't
standard
think
to
it
have the
exists
file there?
until you've created, like, if you've never installed anything that needs something in your Bash RC, then it doesn't create.
So there's
it.
not a default one. Is there a
No.
default file in macOS then? Like bash_profile, I think is another one.
No, because when I check, or maybe bash profile that it was there. Ooh, I don't remember.
Because
I
oh,
am
hang
sure-
on. I'm literally checking that. So I sent a link for the ADSF install. It's got bash and git macOS. It does actually say to add it to your bash_profile. So maybe the simple fix is to just replace bash RC with bash_profile or add it as another option. I don't like the idea of just creating a new file for people because there may be reasons why they don't have a bash RC file.
So the bash and macOS thing there specifically calls out saying if you're using Catalina or newer, then the default shell is ZSH unless you're changing to bash. Follow the ZSH instructions. So the ZSH instructions are further down.
Yeah, because I needed ZSH, not bash. And by default, the ZSH RC is not present on the macOS.
Funny enough, I can't actually find ASDF
ZSH...
in any of these files at the moment.
I thought ZSH requires a config file. Otherwise, every time you start a shell, it complains that, hey, you don't have a config file.
No, it doesn't.
I don't have macOS, so I can't test anything.
No.
Could test it just a raw container with ZSH, but yeah, that's maybe going too much. I think simply we should just check what shell's configured for the user, check to see that that file exists. If it exists, dump something in there, which it's already doing, and if not, create it. And
if we don't want to create the file, we can only tell the user how to do it, and basically he can decide whether or not to do it.
Yeah. To be honest, when you're first installing GDK, there's a lot of messages. Everyone who's read every one of those messages the first time they install GDK, raise their hands.
The messages at the end.
Yes, at the end, at the beginning, all the way through.
Well, all the way through, good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but at the end, often not necessarily the case. So, yeah, I think it's just one of those. You can show a message, but is the user actually going to read it?
You could show a message and pause the screen there for a keystroke for the user to acknowledge.
I can draw attention, maybe using some colors.
Yeah, that's always a possibility.
Yeah, because I kind of agree with Andrew that creating the file for the user might be a little bit too much. Maybe even changing that file might be a little bit too much. But if we provide the instruction to the user on how and what they should do to make GDK available all the times, it could be probably enough.
But is this something that's already in the instructions?
I think it's I need to check, but I remember finding how to set up GDK on session basis, not make it permanent, like every time you open a new session, you have it.
Because if we could just simply add it to the instructions and
Yes, that's another way to do it. But if we do that, we have to, well, there is an FAQ section on the GDK. I don't remember. Been away too much. Oh, I'm even logged out.
because I was thinking if you want to support like all the different shells, then you go down a rabbit hole of like which config file goes for which shell and creating that for the user.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely not what anyone wants. The sort of top layer of supported OSs, I'm pretty confident in saying Bash or ZSH are going to be defaults for those, and anything other than those. And yes, you're going to find a lot of people using Fish, or some people even using one of the CSH variants or something. That's fine, but when you start going on, yeah, when you kind of start going out into the world of changing defaults, then you kind of also assume that the user has a little bit more savvy, and you can kind of point them into a place to say add something here or whatever. So
Well, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 supported platforms on the GDK. So I would support at least those, which are macOS, Ubuntu, Debian, which I think uses Bash as well.
Yeah.
Fedora, I'm not sure.
Bash.
Okay. Arc.
Bash.
I think that's probably decided by the user at installation time.
Okay. Manjaro.
Manjaro is probably Bash,
Okay,
but
so
I would have to double check.
So basically, it's either ZSH or Bash. So yeah.
Yeah, I think ZSH and Bash are fairly confident ones to start with. As a first iteration, I wouldn't go any further than that, and possibly add a note into the docs just to say, if you are using a shell other than these shells, you will need to do the following by clicking here or doing something there.
Mm-mm. I'm trying to search, like I'm looking at the documentation for GDK and I cannot find where I found the way, the line to add to the, or the command to load GDK, the ASDF. So it's not really that easy to find.
Is it just because it relies on the ASDF installation portion? No, not necessarily.
Probably. I honestly don't remember how I found it.
By the way, Bash is default on Arch, Linux, and Manjaro uses ZSH or Bash, depending on the edition you're using. So again, that just goes back to reinforce that Bash and ZSH are the only two that we need to worry about.
So Marco, I think that's okay if you can't find it. Like I'll check it for you. So if we could decide on a course of action, like if we want to just simply update the docs, I could do that. Or if we want to just create the bash RC and ZSH RC, I could do that.
Find where.
I just noticed Lee's dropped off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lee mentioned he was going to, so he obviously just slipped out quietly.
Yeah, he left a message on the Zoom chat. Reading
Oh,
and
did he?
talking is difficult
yeah.
at the same time. Simple installation.
Course of action. I mean, I guess this is a GitLab decision to make. Do you want to create files in people's directories or give a message saying, "Hey, you have to do this"?
Yeah,
I
that's.
I would be
yeah.
quite comfortable with just going and creating the file. The fact remains is that you're installing GDK. By installing GDK, it's already going to be making a number of other changes. Maybe just a case of, if we have created the file, then pop a message out at the end and say, by the way, you didn't have a ZSHRC or a bashrc. We've gone ahead and added it. If you wanted to clean it up again, then you just have to remove this line from it, or just remove the file in future. I mean, most people would want a ZSHRC, and I don't see there being any negative connotation of having a ZSHRC if you don't have one. If you didn't have one before, there's nothing bad going to happen if now suddenly you do have one, if all it's doing is making GDK work when you asked for your shell to install GDK. So I'd be quite happy with it creating that for me personally.
There was one question I was going to ask about that as well. Oh no, yeah. So I'm looking at the merge request at the moment. So it looks like you've got it to create that file.
Yeah.
The issue is with the way it's done at the moment is that it checks for a bash RC and would then create the file, and then checks for ZSHRC and would then create the file. Would it be better to check the shell like you were saying then and only create the one file? Yeah.
That's the one part I would probably definitely do, is just make sure that you're changing you're just creating the one file based on which shell the user has currently configured. And again, I would go to what's configured, not what's running. So if they have ZSH run configured, and then they go and start Fish and do their install through Fish, I expect the GDK installation to go and add something into ZSHRC. If they choose to run Fish manually when they run Fish, that's fine, but then things aren't going to work.
Can you do that?
Yeah, well, just log into a session and type a shell name, and there you go. You're running that other shell.
But I mean, can you find out what their original shell was? Does it not?
So the dollar shell variable tells you what is configured for the user, not what is actively running.
Okay. I thought it was the shell you're currently in. Okay.
Yeah, to get the shell you're actively running, you got to use the ps-p $$ command.
But
But I found where in the documentation is mentioned how to fix the GDK command not found. And it's not really intuitive because it's under the troubleshooting ASDF. So if you don't know that ASDF is the issue, you will never find it, basically.
That sounds just like a good opportunity to fix that, and maybe just shuffle that around and tweak that as a part of this change, because the particular change could hopefully fix some of that.
Yeah, there's a main troubleshoot page, and I would be tempted to put it on the main troubleshoot page because that's one of the easiest places where someone could try to find it.
Got it. So yeah, I think that's about it. And like one last question that I had was like, having made the changes, how do I test them? In a sense, I'll just run the local install file?
Good question. Have you got access to a? So the pipeline should change, should test them, but obviously it hasn't been breaking so far, so it probably already has default things in the container that it's doing. The easiest would probably be running a raw sort of container runtime on your machine, if you've and just opening up a pick a distribution, Ubuntu or something, opening up a raw Ubuntu container, deleting the bash RC, run the installer, see if it does what you're expecting it to do, and then move on from there.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
You'd have to, you'd have to clone your GDK fork, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, or just you'd have to clone the GDK fork, or just because the install would have to go from there. So just run the installer from your fork.
So I was going to say, for Mac OS, you could just create a temporary user account, run it in there, and then delete the user and try again.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a pain though. I was going to say as well, one other thing. I don't know how Mac OS file structure looks like, but what's the path for the ZSH shell? Do you just want to do like a substring for the shell and search for ZSH?
It's
inside of the user folder.
Is it user bin ZSH?
It's just bin ZSH.
Yeah.
It is just bin?
Yeah. And bash is bin bash.
Because I was going to say, I'm on Fedora, but actually, what is mine in? That's how you spell which. Mine's user bin ZSH. But yeah, I think if you just do a substring search for ZSH on the shell, then.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah, or a you
don't want to
substring
just do
search. Yeah, there is a shell command that will tell you the file name. That'll clean the path off for you.
Actually, can you do base path? Is it
base name?
Base name. Base name. Dollar.
Yeah, base name.
Shell.
Dollar shell. That'll do it.
So if base name dollar shell equals ZSH, that'll work.
Good. And there's this one last bit about GDK Doctor that Marco added. Could you elaborate on that, Marco?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking that if we don't want to if we only want to make it easier, like don't make any changes to the user files and stuff like that, just add a section to the GDK Doctor to make sure that ASDF is set up correctly on the shell file. But if we are going to change the shell file, then we can skip that.
Cool. Works.
Oh, also, I noticed a question about the prerequisites section, adding it to the prerequisite section. Honestly, ASDF is already a prerequisite. So let me have a look because I don't remember. Install the prerequisites. Oh, git and make are the only prerequisites installed, mentioned. It's the one-line installation that installs ASDF. If you do it manually, when you set up GDK manually,
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. I was just thinking back to when I ran on my machine. I think I already had ASTF running before I ran the GDK installer.
Yeah, and when I did it on the new Mac, I used the one-line installation, so that installed the ASDF. And I think that's what we are trying to solve now.
That's really where we should be solving it, definitely. Because that's the one thing you're going to be falling over. If you've already got ASDF installed, or you installed it as part of the manual things, then the ASDF install should call out what you need to do as part of that step.
But isn't the file that we're trying to change part of the one-line installation, or is it actually the GDK install command?
It's part
Support
of the
Bootstrap, I think, Bootstrap is part of the one line. What's part of the, I think Bootstrap is run before GDK install. So yeah, Bootstrap is part of the one line installation.
Okay, so that would solve this issue.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so no need to add it to the prerequisites then.
Yeah, no, it's part of the bootstraps.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all good.
Yep. So I think that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Am I good to stop sharing my screen, folks?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so you've got a way forward then.
I have.
Fantastic. Just yeah, feel free to shout out if you do get stuck again. Even if you wanted to just create a ad hoc one of these sessions or something, we can definitely do that. But yeah, I think that sounds like a good way forward.
Yep.
Cool. Anybody else got anything to discuss, or?
I did have a quick question. What's the general process of getting like issues assigned to you? The first one I had last week, it was someone who was approving my access to the GitLab community group.
Yes.
But I found another issue in the GitLab runner repo that I was interested in, and I just added the person who made the issue, and I haven't heard back. And I guess I understand that, like, I guess community contributions are probably not the highest priority for a lot of people at GitLab. So I don't want to keep spamming random people until I can get the issue assigned to me.
So there's and this is a great question to ask in a forum like this, but there's probably a couple of routes to take. The one that I was going to mention first is probably to mention the person who created the issue, or that seems to be most active on the issue. Some cases, the person who created the issue may not even be at GitLab anymore. So if it is an older issue. Another one would be to, on the issue, call out the contributor success team, and then anyone from my team can jump in and assign that for you, or pop it into the contribute channel on Discord and say, is there anyone who can assign it? Because that will potentially call out a couple of core team members and other people who may be able to help. That's more than just my team. That can help. But yeah, you can add contributor success in Discord, or you can call out the contributor success team, which is not a straight. Let me just get the right path, because unfortunately it's not straightforward, because making it straightforward would make it too easy, obviously. So there we go. I've just popped it on the thing here. So it's at gitlab.org/developer-relations/contributor success. So if you tag us with that in the issue, it'll ping all of us, and one of us can definitely jump in and assign it to you. Nicholas, who helped you before, is one of our core team members. So and he's very active in maintaining the community forks. So that's where he would have been helpful. And like I say, if you pop that shout out into Discord in the contribute channel, then either my team or anyone else who's looking, there's a number of other GitLab team members in that channel. But if you catch a hero, no, not a hero, a core team member like Andrew or Marco or any of those, then absolutely they can help too.
Awesome. Yeah, all right, awesome. I'll pop it in Discord. That's the only question I had.
Good.
Great.
We're good then.
Yeah. I think now we can go into Marco's pre-prepared presentation and slideshow of what he did on his holiday.
I did nothing, so presentation is done.
There we go. That was a great presentation. Nothing is good.
Yeah.
We all need to do nothing every now and then just to recharge our batteries. So
Yeah. Also, I just noticed that we are recording, but we are not streaming, so we'll have to upload the video to YouTube.
yeah, and possibly worth uploading this part of the video. There'll be 2 recordings. Maybe if we wanted to
Oh, I'll
pinch the first, like merge the first piece of the first recording to the rest of this one, that might be worth doing. But there's definitely a point of the last recording that we can remove. Alrighty, folks. Well, if no one else has anything, then I think that's us for today. Thank you very much for joining. Thanks for your contributions. Great to see you getting some MRs in there, Tilly. I mean, we chatted last week, and you were sort of still green, so it's good to have a couple under the belt. I hope you have nominated yourself for your mug.
I did. It's on the way.
Fantastic. So yeah, we look forward to seeing some more. Feel free to reach out, get anyone to assign that to you, and we'll take it from there. And as always, if you've got any issues, please reach out and ask for some help. We're here to help.
Will do. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thanks, folks.
Cheers.
Have a good day.
You too.